How Elizabeth Holmes convinced the world a lie was worth $9 billion in the early 2000s. A startup called Theranos claimed it had invented a machine that could run hundreds of medical tests using just a single drop of blood. If it worked, it would revolutionize healthcare. The company quickly became one of the hottest startups in Silicon Valley. Its investors included Henry Kissinger, Rupert Murdoch, the Walton family, Oracle founder Larry Ellison. Together, they invested nearly $1 billion. There was just one problem. The technology they were investing in had never actually worked. Not once. And somehow nobody discovered the truth for more than a decade. Today, we are breaking this story down into 4 parts. Part 1, how a 19-year-old dropout convinced Silicon Valley she was the next Steve Jobs. Part 2, the $9 billion promise that nobody verified. Part 3, how the truth finally came out. And Part 4, why so many intelligent people believed a lie for so long. Let's get into it. Part 1, the making of Elizabeth Holmes. Before Theranos was a scandal, it was a dream. Elizabeth Holmes grew up with one goal. She wanted to become a billionaire inventor who changed the world. Not just successful, not just comfortable. She wanted to build something that people would remember for generations. By 19, she was studying chemical engineering at Stanford, one of the most prestigious engineering programs on Earth. And then she did something that instantly grabbed Silicon Valley's attention. She dropped out. You might be wondering, why would dropping out of Stanford impress anyone? Because in Silicon Valley, dropping out is not failure. It is a signal. The same path taken by Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. Dropping out says I have found something so important that I cannot wait 4 years to chase it. Holmes founded Theranos in 2003 at 19 years old, and her mission sounded genuinely extraordinary. What if blood testing could be done with just a few drops from a finger prick? No needles. No painful blood draws, just a tiny sample, and hundreds of diagnostic tests run from it instantly. If that technology worked, it would transform healthcare. Diseases caught earlier, lives saved, medical testing accessible to everyone. The potential was enormous, and Silicon Valley absolutely loves that kind of story. Investors began paying attention immediately. There was just one detail nobody fully understood. The technology did not exist, and that single fact would take over a decade to come out. Part 2, the $9 billion promise. Theranos was not selling blood tests. It was selling a vision. Holmes claimed her device, called the Edison machine, could run hundreds of diagnostic tests from a single drop of blood. Faster than traditional labs, cheaper than traditional labs, more accessible than anything that had existed before. So investors poured money in, one funding round after another, until Theranos reached a peak valuation of $9 billion. Elizabeth Holmes became the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world, at least on paper. The media loved her. Magazine covers followed. Television interviews followed. Comparisons to Steve Jobs followed everywhere she went. She even adopted a similar look deliberately. Black turtlenecks, minimalist presentations. Grand visions about changing the world. Everything appeared perfect from the outside. You might be wondering, with all of this attention, how was nobody seeing what was actually happening inside the company? Because Theranos had built something more powerful than technology. They had built a story, and they had protected it with extreme secrecy. Employees were divided into isolated teams where nobody had the full picture. Investors rarely saw the technology operate independently. Demonstrations were tightly controlled. Questions were redirected. And when high-profile partnerships with Walgreens began arriving, each new endorsement created the illusion that someone else had already verified the science. This is what psychologists call authority bias. If Henry Kissinger believes it, surely someone checked the technology. If Walgreens signed a deal, surely it works. But many investors were not evaluating the science at all. They were evaluating Elizabeth Holmes, and that is one of the most dangerous mistakes any investor can make. Because charisma can be measured instantly in a room, technology cannot. And that gap between what people felt and what was actually true kept Theranos alive for years, until one person decided to stop believing and start verifying. Part 3. The journalist who broke it and the collapse. For years, Theranos looked completely unstoppable. And then a Wall Street Journal reporter named John Carey Rowe started asking questions nobody else had been asking. Unlike the investors surrounding Holmes, Carey Rowe was not trying to believe the story. He was trying to verify it. And those are two very different things. Former employees began speaking to him confidentially. Whistleblowers came forward. Evidence accumulated piece by piece, and a deeply disturbing picture emerged. Many of the blood tests Theranos was running for real patients were not being processed on Theranos machines at all. Traditional commercial blood analyzers, the same equipment used by conventional labs, were doing much of the actual work. The revolutionary Edison device at the center of everything Holmes had promised appeared largely incapable of delivering what she had told the world. In October 2015, Carey Rowe published his investigation in the Wall Street Journal. Theranos denied everything. Holmes went on television calling the reporting false. Legal pressure was applied, but Carey Rowe kept reporting and the evidence kept building. Regulators moved in. Partners backed away. Walgreens terminated its partnership. The $9 billion valuation evaporated almost completely. By 2018, Theranos dissolved entirely. The technology never arrived. The promises never materialized. And in January 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of federal fraud and sentenced to over 11 years in prison. The woman celebrated on magazine covers as the future of healthcare was gone, and the patients whose blood tests had been run on unreliable equipment had no such luck. Part 4. Why smart people believed her. This is the most important part of the entire story, because the question everyone asks about Theranos is not how did Holmes do it. The question is, how did so many brilliant people believe her for so long? Henry Kissinger was not naive. Rupert Murdoch was not naive. The investors who funded round after round were not naive. So what happened? Theranos was not successful despite the lack of evidence. It was successful because of psychology. People did not invest in proven technology. They invested in a compelling narrative, a young founder, a world-changing mission, powerful endorsements that created the illusion of verified credibility, and above everything else, fear of missing out on the next transformational company. Once enough influential people publicly believed the story, skepticism became socially dangerous. Nobody wanted to be the person who questioned the technology while everyone around them was celebrating the founder. Nobody wanted to miss the next Steve Jobs because they asked one too many uncomfortable questions. That fear, the fear of being wrong while everyone else is right, is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. And it is precisely what kept the Theranos story alive long after it should have collapsed. The biggest lesson from Theranos is not about fraud. It is about belief. The technology failed. The science failed. Every measurable promise Holmes made turned out to be false. But the story succeeded. For more than a decade, one compelling narrative became more powerful than evidence, more powerful than due diligence, more powerful than the collective intelligence of some of the wealthiest people in the world. Because the most dangerous lies are not the ones people are forced to believe. They are the ones people want to believe. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Brand Autopsy. Every week we uncover the real stories behind the biggest business successes, failures, and scandals in history. And some of them are even more unbelievable than Theranos.